Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick, coming to you this week from the Indiana State House in downtown Indianapolis, where there is growing interest and momentum around making Indiana a hub for clean and renewable energy. And there was a development this week that really underscores that effort. In Northwest Indiana, Israel-based Doral Renewables broke ground this week on phase 2 of the largest solar project under construction in the entire nation. The $1.5 billion Mammoth Solar Farm will ultimately span more than 13,000 acres across Stark and Pulaski counties. Wind farms also continue to populate the Hoosier landscape. Indiana number 12 now in the nation in terms of wind energy. And from solar and wind to the electrification of the auto industry, a joint venture between global auto giant Stellantis and Samsung SDI in South Korea, investing more than $2.5 billion to build an EV battery factory in Kokomo with plans for 1,400 jobs. General Motors investing nearly $500 million to expand and upgrade operations at its Marion Metal Center to support EV production. And we expect to hear news in the coming weeks regarding plans from GM and South Korea's LG Energy Solution for nearly $2.5 billion EV battery plant in New Carlisle near South Bend. That could mean more than 2,000 jobs. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb believes the state is positioned very well for massive investment in the energy sector. He's leaving this weekend on a trip to Egypt, where he will address a global climate summit, and he'll also focus on energy investment and jobs for the state. Governor, you're going to Egypt. You will address COP27, a major United Nations Global Climate Summit. Why is it important to make that trip and be involved in this summit?
Well, I'm kind of living up to what I say and preach, and that is every day I try to take Indiana to the world and bring the world back to Indiana. Little did I think about including Egypt in that when I originally said it some years ago, but it led to a discussion with Karen Pierce, the Ambassador Karen Pierce from the United Kingdom, pre-COVID, and I was just bragging about the state of affairs in Indiana and all the practical, pragmatic steps that we were taking, both government, academia, and the private sector, that's really responding to the demands and the needs of their customer base. And it's an impressive list of what's been accomplished, and I'll have an opportunity to, because I was invited, to share some of those solutions to this issue that we're all grappling with.
So BP, GM, any number of high-profile companies with a presence here are going to be there as well.
Yeah, there'll be a long list of private sector companies, and obviously for a state like Indiana that's ranked number one in terms of manufacturing, we want to make sure 10 years from now we're still ranked number one in advanced manufacturing. And so when you look at just the auto industry or agriculture, for two examples, we want to make sure that all the innovation that's occurring, that's really driving the possibility that we now have more sources, alternatives to choose from, that puts us in a position of strength. I just returned from, as you'll recall, Germany, and they were in a position to where they were solely dependent on one source of energy, and because of geopolitical affairs, that became threatened and obviously put them in a weaker or vulnerable position. I don't want that to occur here.
What's the potential from an economic development standpoint from new energy, renewables, alternative energy for Indiana? The Mammoth Solar Project, a massive project up in Northwest Indiana, phase 2 kicking off this week. Investment in all of those things, what's the potential?
Massive. And the transformation is occurring. Our companies are making these investments to make sure that they're global leaders, again, a decade from now. So when you consider BP, the largest inland oil refinery in America, when you consider Cleveland-Cliffs, one of the biggest steel producers that's supplying about half the auto market in America for automobile production, these are two companies that the supply chain is dependent upon, you might say, in order to meet their needs and their customer base. And so when you think about the electric vehicles becoming ever more popular, and will as the coming years unfold, we got to make sure that we're in a position to continue with the workforce and with the raw materials to supply. We're the number one steel producing state in America. About 28% of America's steel is produced here. So we hope to be the same 10 years from now.
You mentioned the electrification of the auto industry. Already some big deals announced here. Stellantis joint venture in Kokomo, potentially a GM joint venture in the South Bend area, New Carlisle, that could be happening soon. Billions of dollars of investment, tens of thousands of, or thousands of jobs. What's the potential in that area?
Well, it's just more options for our workforce to stay close to home and not seek opportunity elsewhere when these industries and ecosystems transform themselves. And we've talked a lot about the private sector. We've got Purdue University, we've got Indiana University, Notre Dame University, who are leaning heavily into the future in order to make sure that we continue here in the state of Indiana to offer reliability, sustainability, and affordability of our energy sources. And that means citizens, taxpayers, and the business community. And so, yeah, for sure, when we're looking at enticing or trying to lure battery manufacturers or electric vehicle production, this is critically important to their business model and to their plan. And so we're happy to be good partners.
Yeah, very quickly to those critics of electric vehicles, renewables, is the message this is happening whether we participate or not as a state, and we want to participate?
Well, I would say, not to be derogatory, but you're kind of living in a fantasy world if you don't think the market is responding to demand. And so for that reason alone, we want to make sure that we have a canvas of options, different colors, pink, blue, turquoise, green, of energy sources, whether it be nuclear, hydro, wind, solar, coal, gas, oil. It's an all-of-the-above approach, and having more options, alternatives, makes you stronger.